Coach, what's up? How you doing, man?
Good. How are you, E?
Obviously, we entering this last game. Just any updates on Jared Goff, or how's the past couple of days going?
Yeah, yesterday was pretty promising, and so today's kind of a modified practice, um, but we see him, taking the reps. It'll be more passing related, 7-on-7 type stuff that I think he'll be able to participate in and get our skill guys moving a little bit.
Outside of the final score, what would you like to see in this last game? Like, what would be your hopes to see? Like, what do you see? How would you like the guys to end the season outside of just a score or anything?
Continued development out of the the young players, but even some of the players that are, I mean, second year players, third year players, maybe thrust into roles that they haven't had an opportunity to play in very much. So, man, that's what we're looking for. Are they taking a step up from last week, or continuing to take the right steps into this last week?
Corey? Corey, you there? Corey, we can't hear you, so we're going to move on to Tim.
Hey, Dan, how you doing?
Good.
Hey, when the season started, the kind of message was driven by Detroit. That's been a theme in the stadium as well. Just as you approach the last game of the season, can you just talk about the support you felt from the city of Detroit and the fan base through the course of your first season?
Yeah, listen, it's been great, man. I mean, they've been there thick and thin, and I know it hadn't been everything that everybody's wanted it to be, but yet, I just go to this. I mean, we're at the end of the year. The last two games that we played at home, Minnesota and Arizona, I mean, our fans are like in it to the very end, and it was loud in there, and it was energetic, and so it's been great. It's everything that we already know, man. When we get this thing turned to where we want it, man, we've got the fans, and they're ready to roll, and we'll do our part moving forward.
Thanks, Dan.
Yep.
Chris?
Hey, Dan. Wanted to ask about Michael Brockers. Obviously, Brad knew him from LA, but things didn't seem like they ended with the Rams quite the way Michael might have wanted him to, and he was going from a contender to a team that you knew was rebuilding. I guess, how are you just so sure that he was going to buy in the way that he has?
Well, because anybody that knows him and everybody that knows him, it's just the way he is. It doesn't matter what, everybody will tell you that for him, it doesn't matter what the record is. It doesn't matter the play time, it's all about, he's got a job to do, and he's going to do everything he can to put his best foot forward, and that's just the way he's cut. And those guys are hard to find, man, much less with the production they put on tape. So that doesn't mean it's an easy thing, but that was really a pretty easy sell, so I think when you know the character of that type of person, that's not going anywhere. And that's proven to be true with him as well.
I know you've talked about the impact he's had and Nick Williams has had in that room, but for guys like Aleem and Levi, the younger players, how have you seen Brock help bring them along this year?
Yeah, well, I think it's what you're seeing. I mean, you could argue that McNeil may have had one of his better games in Seattle. So I think he was actually one of the brighter spots in that game, believe it or not. And but that guy's improving. And look, Levi, I know I made my comments, but it's not like Levi is not improving. He's coming. It's like he's flashing plays, and he flashes more every week. But those guys, they're learning how to be pros. They're learning how to approach the game. They're learning how to approach practice. They're learning that you're not just walking in the door and because you're a drafted player, like you're going to go kick ass in this league. It doesn't work that way. And so, when you have a rough day, you got to know how to bounce back and put that behind you and learn from it. And he's teaching them those lessons. And, he didn't let those guys bitch. They go to work, man. He pulls them in the weight room. They do what they're asked to do, and then some, do extra. And so he's teaching them the ropes, man, how to be a true pro.
Dave?
Hey, Dan, excuse me. I think you've seen just about everybody on your roster and more this year, down to the practice squad guys. But is there anyone or anything that you need to see here in the last game, to get a proper evaluation on them heading into 2022?
No, I mean, look, as you said, there's a number of guys that we've gotten to look at. I think it's the same thing, man. You want to be sold one way or another, maybe on a few guys. Is this somebody that it's worth continuing to invest in into next year? Do we see potential in as a positional player, whether it's a linebacker, do we think they can be a depth player or potentially a starter one day at linebacker, or are they just special teams, or are they both? So I think you're still looking for those things a little bit. You want to see if there's some of that that maybe you ordinarily wouldn't be able to see, and we have that luxury just with the nature of where we're at with injuries and COVID and all those things.
Is there anything that you have to manufacture with those guys to make sure you get them extra playing time this week, or do you have a pretty good?
Oh, I think it's naturally going to happen. I think it'll just naturally happen, kind of like it did last week. I mean, it's going to play its course. So I don't feel like there's anything that we're going to have to do to really try to push and find something out about another guy that we wouldn't ordinarily do.
Right. And then the other thing I wanted to ask you, you talked the other day about feeling more comfortable, calling plays, or just sort of the growth that you've made, balancing that with all your other job responsibilities. Do you have you made a decision yet on what you want to do next year? Do you intend to keep calling plays? Do you want to have somebody else call plays? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, honestly, Dave, I haven't. I mean, I know that I'm getting a lot more comfortable, and I feel like this is something that I do believe I can do and be good at, but I'm not ready to commit to what I'm doing next year yet. I got to sit down and process all this at the right time.
Has it been difficult to do both? I mean, I know you talked about finding that balance, but was that at first, I don't know, a lot on your plate, a lot extra on your plate doing that, I guess?
Yeah, I mean, it was. I'm not going to lie to you. It was a lot. It was a lot. I felt like it took a couple of weeks to be able to start breathing again. But yeah, it was there was a transitional period there. It took a minute to try to get it all in, and because unfortunately, when you take that on, fortunately and unfortunately, but something's going to suffer somewhere until you figure out. It's like, I think I told you guys this, like Parcells used to always say, he's like, look, man, running a team's like having a garden, and the minute you neglect one area, it'll wither and die if you're not giving it attention, or you're not pulling weeds, you're not watering, you're not, and and unfortunately you start figuring that out the hard way. So yeah, it's been a process, but I can tell you this, I'm miles ahead of where I was 3 or 4 weeks ago. I feel that way. I'm so much more comfortable now. I'm starting to figure it out. Doesn't mean I'm perfect by any means, but I do feel a lot more comfortable.
Thank you, Dan.
Yep.
All right, guys, time for 2 more. John, go ahead.
Hey, Dan, good morning.
Morning.
Yep, I got a couple questions on the Packers. First, with all the noise surrounding Aaron Rodgers and the season that he's had prior to the year starting, what have you seen from him, and what's made him still one of the top quarterbacks in the league?
Yeah, I mean, everything that everybody else sees. He's he's still playing at a very high level. He's a quick processor. He's got a quick release. He knows the game. I mean, he's a high level thinker, and it's one of those things where he's got enough flexibility and what he's able to do by just what you're doing defensively. So he really can get to a number of different things that he knows can beat your coverages or your pressures. And he's got smart players he plays with, and they know what he wants. And then look, he's got it. That defense is pretty good now. They're playing good football over there too. And So they're getting him the ball back, and then when you accompany that with a run game with Aaron Jones and those guys, I mean, it's a tough team. There's a reason why they're playing at a high level. But he hasn't slowed down. I know that, and he's as dangerous as he's ever been. And so, you know, you really the only thing you can do is if you get a small opportunity to make a play, you got to make a play. You got to make it count because they're not going to come around often.
Yeah, and then my second question is obviously as you guys kick this off and move forward, probably the coach that you're going to be opposing, you know, at the top of the division is LaFleur. What have you seen that's made him so successful? Obviously, outside of having Aaron Rodgers, what's made him successful and having such a great win-loss record over the last couple of years to start his coaching career?
Well, look, he's done a great job with those players, man, and with that roster. I think he's very flexible in what he does. I think his use of the talent that he has been noticeable, at least for me. And I know just as an offensive play caller, man, he's very creative, and you know, he'll give you a look and then counter with it, and you know, he keeps you on your heels, he keeps you guessing, and you know, I think every week they do things really well to attack their opponent, but yet it's still things that are kind of their core values of who they are and what they do. And so, look, man, he's done a great job. I mean, you can't argue that with what they've done since he's been there. I mean, the proof's in the pudding.
Thanks, Dan. I appreciate it.
Yep.
All right, Corey, let's try this one more time.
Hey, Dan, how you doing this morning?
Good.
So, you know, a lot of it has been made about Amon-Ra St. Brown and his progression over the past couple of weeks. But as you head into this last game of the season, guys like Josh Reynolds or Khalif Raymond, who've been on a couple of teams, what are you going to be looking to see out of them in this last game where you and your staff want to bring them back and make them Lions long term?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if it's what I would expect or what you know, I don't know if what I need to see would be a good way to put it necessarily, Corey. For me, I think the best way to say that is I expect for both of them to come out and play well and be who they've been since, you know, like since Reynolds walked in the door. I expect him to be what he's been for us. And then I expect Leaf to be what he's been for us all year, like steady, reliable players. I think that'd be a better way to put it than what do I need to see. I feel like I've kind of got a pretty good feeling of both of those players and what they are and what they can do. And so I think those guys are going to go out and be exactly what we think they're going to be this week. Steady, reliable players. Yep.
Great. Thanks, Coach.
Okay. See you.